The type of arrogant children I'm talking about never take correction in a constructive way. They never take any kind of challenge to their superiority. Their reactions are always anger and petulance. Even worse, these children never seem to know when to keep their opinions to themselves. As someone once said of them, 2/3 of what they think on a topic is borrowed from their parents or older siblings, and the remaining 1/3 is based on whether they have an immediate desire for something. Now, kids like this usually have no basis for believing the things they do. Their attitude stems from some form of immaturity or insecurity. But if their arrogance, by chance, is founded in real circumstances, for example, if the child comes from a wealthy family or is gifted in some way, then their smugness is often of the very worst kind. Left unattended or uncorrected, these are the kids who become the notorious bullies and haters of the world. But whether a child's arrogance is a consequence of wealth, upbringing, immaturity, insecurity, or simply natural disposition, the end result is always the same: rudeness and bad behavior. The end result is always a child who mistakenly thinks that everyone is beneath him, who deludes himself into believing that he is somehow smarter and better than everyone else, when in fact, he is much worse. Now, most of you who are listening to these words have encountered children like this at one time or another. If you have, please fix that image in your minds for just a few minutes. It will be very valuable in understanding not only the subject of this chapter, but also the theme of this entire book. Because this image of the typical arrogant, condescending, bullying child that I've just described is, in actuality, the exact picture of the typical modern-day atheist. That's right. Just as we've all seen spoiled, misbehaved children in action, we've also witnessed the spectacle of the new atheists spreading their particular brand of toxic arrogance throughout society. You know who they are. They're the ones who are offended by the slightest bit of religious imagery in the public. The ones who are mortified even if a whisper of Merry Christmas escapes the lips of some well-meaning but naive department store clerk during the holiday season. The ones who object vehemently to the phrase, "In God we trust," on money or the walls of government buildings. These are the self-righteous twits who cause a storm of protest whenever something overtly religious is spoken of in anything but hushed tones or behind closed doors. These folks are loud, nasty, unapologetic, and in your face. And unfortunately, they're not going away. In the following chapters, I'm not going to focus on proving God's existence or showing how much sense it makes to be a believer. As noted earlier, plenty of books on popular theology do that already. Rather, my main purpose here will be to expose once and for all the blatant hypocrisy, dishonesty, and intellectual bankruptcy of the atheists themselves. For when you really look at what the new atheists are saying, you don't find a carefully constructed, logical argument against the theistic position. In fact, you don't find any argument at all. What you find is a lot of hot air, a lot of bluster, a lot of disdainful, unfounded, and empty dogmatism. Above all, what you find is arrogance. Arrogance has been the calling card of atheists for a long time. It didn't start with Richard Dawkins or Bill Maher. Friedrich Nietzsche, the great patron saint of atheism, and coincidentally, the favorite philosopher of Adolf Hitler, a fact atheists conveniently neglect to mention, proclaimed famously in the 19th century that God was dead and in his grave. That preposterous pronouncement set the tone for atheistic arrogance over the next 100 years. The militant atheists of the 21st century have raised this kind of pretentious egotism to an art form. Sam Harris superciliously writes, quote, "It is time that we admitted that faith is nothing more than the license religious people give one another to keep believing when reasons fail," end quote. And that, quote, "atheism is not a philosophy. It is not even a view of the world. It is simply an admission of the obvious," end quote. Richard Dawkins haughtily states, quote,